Greetings, geeks! Hey, happy game day, right? Yeah, I got a football. You didn't think I had a football. It's a Spider-Man 3 football, yeah. But but I got the game ball, baby. Yeah, so here we are. It's Super Bowl Sunday. You're enjoying the halftime show. But are you really enjoying the game? How many of us geeks are tuning in? I know Michael is. But me, I'm at home. I'm thinking about comics. I'm getting excited. And this Super Bowl weekend, I got a chance to actually go to a comic book store, spend 2 hours digging around the bins. And that is just everything I ever want out of my comic book collecting hobby, right? I don't even like going with something in mind. I just flip through everything I see, and what I find is, oh, need that, need that, need that. So I headed out to a place called Kelly's Comics. It is in Great Falls, Montana. Oh, yes. It's actually been in business since 1991. And we're going to be talking to Brooks Kelly, who runs that on the Wizard Files, because with that many years in the business, and especially existing through the 90s, he's got a lot of stories to tell. But I wanted to share with you my Super Bowl haul, right? Like, what did I find on this weekend, which I didn't even realize till this morning? Oh, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Perfect chance to share with you here. So we do have a grand finale, but let me start with this. Picked up a few Wizard related issues, okay? Yes. So we have the Wizard Ace edition of Ash #1. Now, these are different than the Wizard Halves. What they are is a reprint, but with a very fancy type of cover. They would do is like a clear acetate type thing, right? So there you have the background, but then there is Ash right there. Yeah, and on a clear piece as if he was in animation. It's a wraparound, so you kind of get a similar thing in the back, but it's mostly just an ad. But there's a lot of great stuff in here. Like I say, it's just the first issue. But being that it was in collaboration with Wizard, you can bet that you will find some Wizard ads in here. There's something for Inquest, okay? And then a few pages forward. Oh, hey, how about you go Cyber Wizard? Yeah, go to Wizard Online, right? So this is just really cool because in addition to the half issues, the Ace editions were something special Wizard loved to offer the readers. Speaking of which, though, here we are. This is a special edition of Uncanny X-Men. This was the Legion Quest 1. You see down here, it has the wizard there. This was actually packed in with an issue to get everybody prepped and excited and understanding that the Age of Apocalypse was coming. What was going to cause it? Well, it all started here in the pages of this issue. It's got a gold logo. So this was very cool. It was something we were missing because we didn't have a bagged copy of that particular issue. So to be adding that now was very cool. And one more Wizard related here was this edition of Brutes and Babes. Yes, Bart Sears, right, for many years running the drawing advice column, if you will, giving tutorials in Brutes and Babes, and then started his own company and then started producing comics about Brute and Babe. Okay, so Wizard actually packed in like a smaller version of this, a little mini comic in one of their issues, but to have a full-size one, I thought that was cool to add. All right, so that's it for Wizard Magazine related issues, but doesn't mean that stuff that I found wasn't featured in Wizard Magazine in one form or another. So first here, this is something that was very cool. If you will recall, there was a period where they had Stan Lee go over to DC Comics, and what was he doing? He was giving his interpretation of DC characters. What if he was at DC instead of Marvel in the 60s or back in the 30s or whenever these characters were created, right? So I have like the Green Lantern one, I have the Batman one, I have the Superman one, the Wonder Woman, but I actually had forgotten or didn't even know that he had done Stan Lee Presents Robin. So what was his version of Robin the Boy Wonder? I'm very excited to read this because that was one I didn't even know existed. And they're the classic Stan Lee style, a lot of them, even though they have updated artwork with the hottest artists. Up here, though, this is another one that's coming up in the timeline. The Freshman, co-created by Seth Green, right? I just remember how much this was promoted in Wizard. And obviously, there's the whole Robot Chicken connection to Toy Fair magazine and all of that. So this was a big, big deal when The Freshman came out, but I never read it. I never picked it up. So I was very curious to find out. I actually thought it was going to be made into a TV series or something, but that never happened. Now, next up, I have a near complete collection of Darkhawk, so I went and they had quite a few issues of Darkhawk in their dollar bin. I was very excited. I knew I needed this one. This was a cover that I didn't recognize, and I was like, okay, I need that. But then sometimes, I don't know if you guys get this, but when I'm going through the back issues, I'm like, I don't have it written down. I probably need to get more organized, right? Spreadsheet, put it on the phone. It's on a Google Drive, Google Docs, whatever. But I was so sometimes I have to guess, and so I remembered at one point I needed issues 2 and 3 of Darkhawk. But turns out I did actually find them at one point. So now I have extra issues, extra copies, if you will, of Darkhawk 2 and 3. Still great issues, probably in better conditions than the ones I have, so I think I'll just hang on to them. But yeah, it's one of those things, if I had a checklist with me, it'd make things a lot easier, like on my Sensational She-Hulk run and my Darkhawk run. But speaking of some of these Marvel comics of the 90s, these dark adventurers, Nightwatch, okay? Nightwatch is a character we just talked about on episode 50. This was the final issue, so I kind of wanted to see how the saga of Nightwatch ended. So yes, very much a Spawn clone, but by the end, had they added anything unique to him? I don't know. I mean, I know he wasn't a demon. He wasn't hell related, but still, the costume and the idea of it. Also here, this is another one, this new X-Men, right? This was a big deal. This is an image I remember seeing in Wizard over and over again. Everybody praised how much this changed the status quo and how much more interesting X-Men became. I also didn't buy it then. So now to get a chance to read a copy and get to know the beginning of that story and how people felt about it. Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, I know, were like the hot new creative team, even though I think Frank Quitely didn't stay too long on there. But now, a lot of people, they hate watch a TV series or they hate watch a movie. It has an actor they don't like. I hate watch and hate read comics sometimes because, oh yes, our old pal, Rob Liefeld, Michael's not around. I think we're okay. He actually got the rights to do a Mission Impossible comic. Okay, and this is one of those things where I remember him talking about this, and of course, he had all these movie projects he was supposedly gonna work on with Tom Cruise, and they were developing, and they just never happened. But I'm very curious to see how his art stacked up at this point in time with the Mission Impossible comic book. So he loves those adaptations. He did his Battlestar Galactica and tried to get a lot of other licenses. Now, this next thing is something that is a few years off in our timeline on the show, but there were some issues from DC Comics that were #1 issues, which felt very akin to what they were doing with Bloodlines, where they were trying to introduce a bunch of new characters and threw a bunch at the wall and wanted to see, what was sticking with the fans. So I picked up a couple of these, and there were a couple I didn't because they were full runs collected, and I didn't want to pay $12 for something that I was pretty sure wasn't that popular. But first up here, Tachyon, okay? So I have no concept of what this is. I don't know what, his premise would be. I've never heard of Tachyon ever, but this is a 1996 book, so that's coming up in a few months in our timeline, so I'm excited about that. The other one here was Firebrand, okay? And so Firebrand, again, what's his deal? He's got some energy coming off him, I don't know, but it's a #1 issue. Okay, so anyway, we'll dig into that era of DC and find out why or why not. I had a lot of fun covering Bloodlines on the mini episodes, so we'll see. Also with DC, Genesis? I don't know what this is. The source of all power, doomed. But what stuck out to me was it was the era of the blue electric Superman. So the fact that, it kind of looked like a JLA something or other going on here. So I was very curious to see. I'm sure Wizard's going to promote it and say, oh, DC's telling us this is going to change everything. And it changes nothing. That type of thing. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Now, long-time listeners to the show know that I am a fan of Exo Manowar from the Valiant days, the early incarnation, and so when I saw this, there was no way I was not going to pick it up. Ox Cow War? OX Cow War. Get it? Because he's an ox, that whole thing. This is actually a cover that originally had one of good skin going on to one of Eric, who is the normal inhabitor of the Exo armor. He had a friend, and she got to wear the armor for a while. So here they're it's a takeoff on that cover. But I just thought that was funny. Oh, wait a minute, you guys, there's a signature. I didn't even see that when I picked it up. I don't know what that's good for, but we'll find out when I read it. We'll see. That just cracked me up. I didn't know that existed. Um, so also they had a deal at this store. As you saw here, a lot of these, they had green dots. So if you bought 10, then everything was priced at $1. They were $1.50 otherwise. So I encourage you to help them clear out their inventory. And if you bought 10, you got a free comic in addition to the discounted price. So they had a couple of these that had this little sticker. This is just a later issue of Spawn from 1995, but I was just like, that is pretty great. You know, on a black background, you got this neon green. So gonna take a look, get more familiar with Spawn, because I've read here and there, and I will continue that, just by spotty reading. But also part of that free deal, an issue of Camp Candy. Oh man, I loved watching Camp Candy. That was just a great cartoon. I actually love the theme song too. It warms my heart. So there's some good 80s ads in here that are fun to flip through. So that's another plus, right? Now, something coming up on the podcast with issue 52. Of those of you who were readers back in that era of Wizard, you will recall there was an X-Files cover, and the whole issue had a lot of X-Files coverage. So we are actually having Steven Sapellis, our recently departed, our ex-co-host, who is coming back as a special guest, but he is bringing his wife. Her name is Annie Flowers. She's a podcaster in her own right. She is a fanatic for X-Files, and so she's going to give us, episode 52 is going to be heavy on X-Files. But that being the case, as I was going around in that dollar bin, all of a sudden I start seeing X-Files comics, okay? This is issue 0, okay? Now, they don't have the first issue, which recently in the pages of Wizard was a #1 comic in their hot books, but they had 13, they had 14, yes. They had 15. Oh, this story's all new. Were the others reprints? There you go. 16, 17, 18, and 19. So I don't know how long this series ran, but I just thought it was cool to get those. They're actually going to be a gift to Annie. So Steven, if you're watching, you can tell her that'll be a thank you for coming onto the show. In addition to, oh, wait a minute, there was also issue 20. Oh, the truth is out there of how many issues of the X-Files from Topps Comics I was able to pick up there. But also down below, they had these drawers that had like oversized comics and magazines and stuff. No Wizard magazine, but they did have X-Files magazine. Yep. So that is super awesome. Not something that falls into our purview, but Annie, I'm sure, will be able to use that on her podcast. So again, check out episode 52 when that shows up in a few weeks. I'm sure you'll be excited. Now, I promised you a grand finale, right? This is our Super Bowl special. So what are we giving you? I think you can guess. I hope you can guess, because if you're reading comics, you know there's only one football superhero that matters. No, I'm not talking about Kickers Inc. I'm talking about NFL Super Pro! Anyway, this is the Super Bowl special. Yes, the Super Bowl special of NFL Super Pro. This is a collector's item. It's a first edition. Now, my buddy Eric had this growing up. He was one of the first friends of mine that I saw with comics. And so I was super excited to find this in the dollar bin. I have the first issue of the ongoing series, but to get the Super Bowl special, I mean, that is just so awesome. So I hope that those of you who are watching the game are having a good time and enjoying it. Those of you who are not, that this was a good enough halftime special for you. Such an awesome haul. I was super excited. I can't wait to go back to that store. It was a 3.5-hour drive to get to it. Totally worth it. But in the meantime, make sure you're subscribed here on the Wizards Podcast YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, you're missing out. We got many episodes where we cover every issue of Wizard Magazine, or we have mini episodes where we cover all the extra details and we review 90s comics. We also have the interview series, Wizard Files, where we talk to people who made Wizard Magazine or were featured in Wizard Wizard magazine. That's something new for this year. And so there's so much to come. Hope you enjoy it. If you like what you saw, tell us on Twitter at Wizards Comics, on Instagram at Wizards_comics. But until next time, keep your books bagged and boarded.